with the Assessor's Office. I'm going to call it to order right now. Today's date is November 16th, 2023. The time is 12:31 p.m. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Commissioner Duncan on the telephone, and Commissioner Matari. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Public comment. Anybody online? No? Okay, let's move into business. The first item is corrective procedures under Idaho Code 63-810 regarding AIN 114499. This is an action item. And have the assessor start.
Commissioners, the commissioner scheduled this, I believe, in response to an email I sent to the commissioners yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Concerning tax cancellation, after I had a conversation with Policy Chief Alan Dornfest, he recommended that I bring the board's attention to this. There's a measure that's allowed by statute. I believe it's section 63-810. It's called corrective procedure or corrective action, whereby the board may make corrections to the levy rate as a result of, for whatever reason, an error and so forth. Driving this is the fact that there was a tax cancellation that occurred in late October. This Board of County Commissioners approved that on October 24th. And that was a significant change in value due to an error that was made. And so the board did process that. And so that's what's driving this.
What was that statute again?
63-810.
810, okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And that's on the meeting agenda. List that as well. So can we talk a little bit more about what is expected of the board, what the magnitude of this is, and how we go about resolving it?
Yeah, so I am not proficient at this statute. This is not, does not fall under the purview of the assessor. It was pointed out to me by the policy chief. It's actually under the authority of the board. And I've not experienced this statute before, so I have no experience with it. I believe the statute is pretty straightforward, that the board, I don't know if you want to call it up. Bear with me, I'm finding the statute here.
I think the statute actually says that the board has the ability to make the corrections prior to the distribution of tax notices by the
Yeah.
fourth Monday of
Yeah.
November.
Yeah.
And I found
would
it
be
actually,
under-
yeah, whenever the county commissioners have discovered that a levy has been made by unintentional, clerical, mathematical, or electronic error in any levy certified by such board, the county commissioners on their motion may, and then A is the one that applies, if discovered prior to the fourth Monday of November of the year for which the levy is certified, order all necessary corrections made in all property records if the corrected levy is otherwise within statutory limits.
So can you talk to us just a little bit about what happened,
In terms of,
why we're here?
well, it's the tax cancellation that occurred on October 24th. So that was about 23 days, counting, I believe the property tax bills need to go out by the fourth Monday of November. So 23 days before that deadline, this tax cancellation occurred.
If we could just clarify, it wasn't a tax cancellation, it was actually a change in valuation. So let's just use the terms that the value changed. There was no tax cancellation at that point in time.
Okay.
Well, the mechanism for processing it is considered and called a tax cancellation. Yes, it's driven by the valuation change, the valuation correction.
You said there was a mistake made where, and I don't want to name, but where was that mistake made?
Where was it made? An appraiser made a keying error and left a decimal out. It is a human error that occurred.
And who is tasked with reviewing that person's work?
The assessor and the appraiser is to review it. The appraiser's manager is to review it. It goes back and forth. There's a series of back and forth reviews. And then there are audits that are performed by the business intelligence
Did
analysts.
that happen? I mean,
Yes,
everybody reviewed it? and
yes,
Signed off on it?
yes.
Why is it they didn't catch this?
Human errors occur.
I mean, one after another?
Human errors occur, yeah. And there was, if you want to talk about errors,
I want to talk about this particular error
right,
because it's necessitating a major redo here.
right. There was an opportunity to catch it and address it early on, like I said, on October 24th. That's really when the statute 63-810 should have been invoked at the time that the tax cancellation was done. So there was 23 days to catch it. I did look into rule, an Idaho rule, which still, to my understanding, is still effective to this day. It's Idaho Tax Rule 809. And it basically says that errors discovered after the fourth Monday of October, when the tax commission receives, I gotta put my glasses on. Errors discovered after the fourth Monday in October, when the tax commission receives after the fourth Monday in October and prior to the following February 15th, notices of corrections for any unintentional errors as referenced in section 809.01 of this rule, the tax commission will make the corrections and approve the appropriate corrected levies within 1 week. So my understanding is that that provision still applies, so what could have happened is on October 25th, within the course of 1 week, it could have been corrected, had the proper mechanisms occurred.
Has anything been done to assure that, this error won't occur again through some form of checks and balances within the procedures within the office?
Yes, and so, you know, obviously, I'm not going to make light of the error. It should not happen. You know, when I discovered the issue myself, I looked to the resources that I have, and there are laws, they're on the books precisely for this purpose. It's recognized that errors occur. One of the resources that I have is called the Assessor's Manual. It's put together, I believe, originally and intentionally by the, I believe the Tax Commission had some involvement in that, but all the assessors get together to put it together. In section 2.7.0, it says erroneous assessments, no matter how conscientious and capable an assessor might be, erroneous assessments can occur. These should be corrected. The Idaho Code prescribes officials responsible for and the manner in which the corrections need to be made. These will vary depending upon the time in which the error was discovered. Then goes on to explain that basically at this point in time, after the adjournment of the BOE, the only authority to make correction is the Board of County Commissioners.
Yeah, well, my question wasn't geared towards statute. It was
Yeah.
geared towards internal process. Obviously, you know, we recognize the fact that mistakes get made.
Right.
The question is, was it a systemic mistake, meaning that there is an improvement for the processes so that we can avoid this in the future?
Yeah.
Or is this just, you know, nothing was done in that
No,
sense?
I've initiated a review. I do not take this issue lightly. I don't really want to tolerate errors. I understand that they can happen. This is not about a witch hunt and trying to find out who did what wrong, but to put processes in place along the lines of Six Sigma so that we're not making mistakes, we're catching mistakes at the very point of origin. That's our objective.
Yeah, because the later into the process, the bigger impact it has, especially on other taxing districts.
Absolutely.
And this one is pretty significant.
Absolutely. It could impact, the most significant, there's 3 taxing districts that would be
Exactly.
affected by it.
So,
How many individual taxpayers in Kootenai County are affected by this mistake?
This was one property, and it affected the taxing districts that are pertinent to that one property, which I believe there's 12 taxing districts that were,
So,
There's 7.
7, okay, I'm sorry.
so the tax bill that goes out, under this mistake, there's 7 of them that need to be corrected, and that's all.
Yes. But unfortunately, they missed out on tax authority. So in other words, they could have taken, had this not occurred, they would have had the ability to levy for more. So now this makes them have foregone and have to have a meeting and reserve the foregone. And unfortunately, the school district that's affected, school districts don't get foregone. So they lose out on that levy authority.
How much,
We don't know because we don't have the rolls. We don't know, we have no idea.
I mean, we're talking $100 or $100,000?
We don't know because without knowing how much value is in that specific district for this property, I can't even speculate.
And you knew you were coming here today, but you didn't find out?
We can't until the state tax commission does a change to the cadaster and then they
Now,
rerun the rolls.
you're pointing fingers, literally,
Yes.
at the assessor?
Yeah, I'm saying that because they're the ones that calculate it, so, they handle the values. So once you approve this, then, or if you approve it, then the state tax commission has to do a change because the rolls have already been closed and the cadaster is closed. And then the assessor's office will rerun the rolls. We have no idea what the value is gonna be until they do their part.
So,
I'd be interested in hearing from Mr. Matheson.
Sure. I didn't actually do the recalculation, but the magnitude of the mistake was approximately $54 million. So it's going to be the resulting calculation on a misvaluation equal to approximately 54 million. So you could probably take the miscalculated levy rate, multiply it by the 54 million. I'm just eyeballing it right now, $250,000 impact possibly
So it's really significant.
for the taxing districts in question, yes.
and I ran the numbers myself. It's actually, if you look at the tax cancellation document, it went from a value
Can I please
of,
clarify, it's not a tax cancellation document, it's called,
I'm referring to this document here.
and what's the title on the top of the document?
The Board of County Commissioners, it's an AS 62.
It's an assessor's valuation amendment, correct?
Right.
Not a tax cancellation document.
But the statutory process.
Right,
is
it's
a
the
tax
process,
cancellation,
but
right.
it is a valuation adjustment document, not a tax
I'm
cancellation.
referring to the statutory process. So.
That's not a statutory process, that's a process we use here in Kootenai County because we can't do roll corrections. It is a valuation change.
According to 63, 1303, and 1302, it's a tax cancellation. So,
That is incorrect, but please
okay.
continue.
if I may continue, $54,334,800 down to a value of $634,120. It's not 54 million, it's about 53 million, still big. I ran the numbers. It computes to about $200,000 at the, and I put all this in the email that I sent to the commissioners, but it computes to about $200,000 in tax revenue. And then I used the treasurer's website. If you scroll down on their website, there's a wizard there where you can actually type in the EIN number and you can look at the taxing districts that come up. And that's where using and relying off the 2022 numbers, it looked like Kootenai County was about 30%. The highway district and the fire district, one was about 12%, the other was about 13%, and then I think a school district was about 25% of that $200,000 value. So I don't know what number you calculated when you got to $250,000 or whatever number you came up with. That's not the number that I arrived at.
I'm just kind of doing it in my head right now, so.
Yeah, and I didn't do it in my head. I actually did it on a calculator, so it's about $200,000 in
If I may interject.
taxes.
Each taxing district has a different levy rate, so it would be a different number based on each levy rate, so it wouldn't be one levy rate.
That's correct, yeah.
Right, so that is a ballpark number that
It was a
is not
ballpark.
necessarily accurate.
And there's 42 taxing districts?
There are, but there are only 7 that are touched by this one property.
Okay. Thank you.
Some districts have more than one levy, for example, Coeur d'Alene School District.
Yeah.
That is true. The school district has 3 separate levies.
Correct.
Well, I mean, we clearly have to address this. The issue really is just to make sure that this is the final time we're addressing it and not, an iteration of addressing issues. So I just have 2 questions. The first one is, you've identified the problem. I hope that you have, is it safe to say that you have figured out why the problem happened and developed at least some procedure to make sure it doesn't happen again?
Well, the person that made the error admits to making the error. So it's a keystroke error. They left the decimal out. And the way to protect against that is to have it reviewed. We are going to create, and we're working on creating, additional audits and additional reviews. Those have not been created just yet, but they're in the works.
Okay. And at this point, are you confident that everything else is accurate with respect to your roles? That they've been double and triple checked so that we don't have anything else come up after we resolve this today?
Well, if your question is, did we all go back in and recheck every single thing? No, we didn't do that. Don't have the time and resources to do
I
that.
wasn't saying that. I'm just
Okay.
saying, but
So-
but with the large numbers you're looking at, there are ways that you can check things that are relatively statistically significant. Whether it's looking at each end of your tax roll when you have very big numbers for certain lots.
Based on the
and very
tools and the
small.
resources that we have now, we've done what we can do, and we're going to continue to develop those tools to refine them and make them better.
My understanding is there are some reporting capabilities, and I would have to defer to our IT department, that does have the ability to calculate significant changes by parcel valuation. And I think it's in the magnitude of 100% or greater. Go ahead, please.
So when this happened yesterday, I poked around on the State Tax Commission has a dashboard we have access to, and I found a report in that dashboard where you can compare last year's value to this year's value, and you can set the percentage you're looking for. I ran it just to see if it worked. It worked, and I found this parcel.
Okay. Well, we just need to have these processes in place to look for this stuff, to look for these outliers. I think everyone recognizes the fact that human error is going to happen, that humans are not perfect, but we have to have systems in place to try to catch these errors. And so that's what's really most important. Commissioner Duncan, do you have any questions?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just a couple. So what are the steps that the individual departments affected need to take, and how long is it going to take them to do this?
Go ahead. Do you want me to?
You go.
I think that's going to be a question that we should probably address after the board has instructed the correction to occur. And then once that happens, then the process is going to kind of restart itself. There's going to be the clerk or the auditor that's going to have to do some work, as well as the tax collector or the treasurer. And we'll walk through those in a little bit more detail. But in my mind, the first step and the reason for this meeting was to simply identify that there was an error made. It needs to be corrected, and I believe that the State Tax Commission is listening on, and they would agree that it should be corrected. And then we'll talk about the ramifications as it relates to the property tax notices, distributions, and things like that.
That's that step after it's corrected, are things we need to do today,
Today, we want you guys to approve.
just to go, okay.
Yes, it needs to be corrected. Then after you guys make that vote, we can talk a little bit about the ramifications downstream.
I would
Okay.
like to add that, and I see
I'm
that.
really happy with the auditor's office, the treasurer's office. I mean, they are on top of it. And most of the people, most of them, in the assessor's office. But we need to pull together this pool of talent to do things right, because the people of the county, they don't want to see mistakes like this of this magnitude over and over again. They want these documents delivered on time and accurately if they're going to have faith in our taxing process.
And if I could, I think the big thing is we just need to make sure that the information is accurate before we print and mail. Because if we have to print and mail again, it will be an absolute disaster. Because it'll confuse people, we'll be overwhelmed with questions and so forth. And so I think I echo the sentiment of the other commissioners that we need to triple and quadruple check these rolls before we send them out into the mail. And if it takes a little extra resources to do that, I would highly encourage that to avoid that kind of a logistical nightmare and confusion for the citizens.
The other thing, Commissioners, I'd like to add, I see that the tax commission's on the line. I'd like to just convey, as far as you asked about the mechanics of the steps. In my correspondence with Policy Chief Alan Dornfest, he did offer his assistance that he would help. His staff, particularly his technical staff, would assist us in performing the steps that need to be performed to get this done.
Well, I would take advantage of every resource that's available at this point.
Can I add that that's the normal process?
The what?
That is the normal process. When we calculate levies, we calculate them, they calculate them, we get together. So that is the normal process that they help us.
And just real quick, Commissioner Duncan, did you have another question, or you want to just let some other people speak first?
Well, I'm ready to make a motion if I can clarify a couple things, and then it sounded like the treasurer's office was prepared, and I would believe the clerk's office may know too the steps and the man hours that this is going to take.
Go ahead.
The questions I have to do the motion are, is it the 2023 tax year that we're stating this for? And then do we have to have the new levy information, or what else needs to be included in the motion? I have it all except for the tax year. And yeah.
It is 2023.
I will defer to Bela if he wants to go ahead and clarify what the motion might be, or if he does not, I'm willing to answer those questions.
Commissioners, I've reviewed the statute.
It needs to, you got to hit the green.
Where is it?
It's on the side, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've reviewed the statute pretty closely here in the last few minutes. And basically, it just says that the board is obligated, when this mistake occurs, to order all necessary corrections made in all property tax records if the corrected levy is otherwise within statutory limits. So I think the motion basically acknowledges the error, what the correction to the error and the value would be, and then the direction to the auditor, assessor, treasurer's office to carry out whatever steps they need in light of that correction. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, and then they would come back, once the levy, Pat Braden, just to amplify on that, after that happens and the corrected levy rate rates are calculated, that those rates would have to be put on an order signed by the commissioners and then a copy sent to the tax commission.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. That happens after.
Yeah.
We spoke with the state tax commission, and it'll just be the same process that you normally do of approving the L1, just so you're aware.
Just expedited greatly.
Leslie, did you have anything more you want to add here?
No. Are either of you comfortable making that motion, or do you want me to give it a shot?
Before she makes that motion,
Hold on.
we do have Alan on the phone and some other individuals. I'm not asking them to comment, but if there is something that you believe that we haven't covered up to this point, I would invite them, Chairman, to weigh in if this would be appropriate.
Yes, I believe so.
Well, Mr. Chairman, can you folks hear me? I guess that's my first question. This is Alan Dornfest.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I just want to say I've got Kathleen Ireland and Sandy Bowen here as well. I know Sandy's been in numerous communications with the county treasurer's office, I believe. such as with Jill, and I've been in communication with Bella, and my staff, Ben Swalowski, has been in communication with Alicia in the clerk's office. So we are committed to helping you folks through the process in any way we can. And for my part, I'm not excusing error, but we do see error. We have seen errors over history, that have been unfortunate and of similar magnitude, and counties generally have made the corrections. So we have been down this pathway, not with your county perhaps, but it has occurred. And so we're committed to working as expeditiously and efficiently as we possibly can and trying to answer any of your questions.
Thank you.
Could I just quickly say, the State Tax Commission has been absolutely phenomenal. And we've had all kinds of issues because of House Bill 292 this year. They have created special fixes just for Kootenai County so that we can get through this in spite of the fact that technically they don't support us. And I just want to put that out there for everyone to know. They have been unbelievably helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
And I echo that. I mean, and we do get technical support from Sandy Bowen, which is tremendous.
Okay. Commissioner Duncan, you want to take a stab at it?
Yes, as soon as I can find out how to unmute myself. Okay. I move that we approve corrective action per Idaho Code 63.810 to recalculate the levy for the 2023 tax year based on the acknowledgement of the error.
Pat,
To include the AIN number?
Anything else?
No?
Pat, is that sufficient?
I believe so.
Okay. I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye.
Well, let's fix this as fast as we can.
I'm going to take the opportunity, because I have the board in front of me at this point in time. There are going to be a number of things that we need to do, and the ramifications of this decision that was made yesterday is, as the tax collector, I chose not to distribute the tax notices. As a result of that decision, they will be going out after the actual statutory deadline, which is the fourth Monday in November. As a result of that, we may have to have a consideration by the board of possibly extending, I shouldn't say extending, authorizing the cancellation of penalties and interest on some people that pay after the December 20th deadline. As you guys know, the December 20th payment deadline is statutorily required. You do not have the authority to change it, nor do I. The board does have the authority to waive penalties and interest as a result of just about anything. So a conversation for next week will be, as we get a little bit closer to finding out when the actual tax notices will be in people's mailboxes, whether we want to accommodate an extended period of time to waive penalties and interest, possibly through December 31st.
So you're saying people normally have this much time to pay the
Correct.
tax. Now they won't. They'll have, when the tax bills go out and people receive them, they'll have this much time.
Yeah,
But
and
this-
approximately it's 31 days, give or
This
take.
deadline doesn't move,
Correct.
but what we can do is consider penalties and interest for those people.
Correct. And that'll be a conversation for next week. But the tax notices will be going out past the due date. Sorry.
Very good.
I need to make, and that was a decision I made yesterday.
Well, we look forward to having that proactive conversation.
Commissioners, I'd like to make a small point of clarification, if I could. It's a minor issue that doesn't affect your decision, but this particular process where the error occurred was a routine one of tens of thousands of entries that are made every year. and they're not subjected, it was made by a certified appraiser, and it was not subjected to review by the residential appraisal manager, that's who I am, Troy Steiner, the residential appraisal manager for the assessor's office. So this particular action was not subject to review by the manager. I just wanted to make that point clear.
Thank you. Public comment? Anybody on the,
I guess I'd like to go on the record as the assessor. I disagree with that statement. The manager is always responsible for his staff, and we can talk about that at a later time.
I would also say that as the department head, that goes uphill.
do you have a comment?
And I guess, are we able to answer the question on what this means for the clerk's office, how many man hours this is going to take, or man hours in the treasurer's office to do this correction?
So the auditor and the state will do the recalculation of the levies simultaneously to save time and to keep us from having to recertify our L1 a fourth time. As soon as, well, now that the board has given direction, I believe Sandy Bowens has already provided the script, so we are ready to move forward. But we will need the assessor to rerun any new abstracts that are affected by this, because we cannot calculate until we have those new values. Once we have them, it shouldn't take long to recalculate 7 districts, so we won't be holding up the treasurer any longer, but we can't move forward until we have the new values pertinent to those specific districts. And I also wanted to add that any undue delay to the treasurer printing their tax bills will also hold up the assessor's ability to certify the property tax reduction, or the PTR roll, which is due November 20th. I've spoken to Pam Waters with the State Tax Commission, and she is willing to extend that deadline for us through the first week of December. But if we miss that, we're talking about roughly $1.5 million potentially that we wouldn't distribute on time to our taxing districts. That's not our money, it's to all of those districts. So this also does affect a process the assessor has to do next.
Okay. Well, the only comment I'd like to make is just that the buck does stop with the elected officials. We are responsible for our departments, and so we are the ones that must answer for these issues. It is not incumbent to point this to the managers. So,
Can I ask a question? As far as the L1, which is the levy rates, normally we come before the board in a business meeting. Because we've already had this whole discussion, you know that it's coming about, would it be okay to do it on the consent calendar instead of actually presenting in a business meeting? Because you're still authorizing it.
That's the prerogative of the board.
Because then we don't have to waste your time by coming before the board again.
Sounds like it's pretty cut and dried.
Yeah, it's basically just administrative action based on what was decided here.
yeah.
So I don't have a problem with that if that's, that's what the board would like to do.
It's all right with me, if it's all right with the other commissioners.
Okay.
I'll also add that I will be sending letters to the districts informing them of these changes.
Okay.
And I have a draft available if you would like to preview that.
Thank you. All right, 1:05 PM, meeting adjourned.